I'm excited to have a quick chat here with Lilo Bullock. Lilo, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Really excited to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, so for those who don't know you yet, you are highly regarded on the world speaker circuit. You've graced all sorts of places from Forbes magazine to number 10 Downing Street. You're hugely connected and highly influential. You've been listed in Forbes as one of the top 20 women social media power influencers, and you were crowned the social influencer of Europe by Oracle. You're listed as the #1 influencer in the UK by Career Experts and are recipient of the Global Women's Champion Award for your contributions in leadership in business. So you've got a little bit of cred when it comes to social media and online business.
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
You were one of the early adopters when it comes
Mhm.
to social media and
Yeah.
using it to get out there, get visible, and
Mhm.
really make an impact for your business. So one of the things that I know you are well known for is collaboration with social influencers.
Yeah.
What are the biggest mistakes that you see businesses, especially entrepreneurs, making when they reach out to collaborate with influencers?
Oh my gosh, where to start? I think, do you know what? I receive so many emails every day from brands, and the lack of personalization is a big no-no for me. So it's obvious when they send template emails out, you can tell they're sending it to everybody. There's no thought process behind it. You know, sometimes influencers want to be seen as a little bit special and you need to pamper their egos a little bit. And I'm obviously not speaking about myself, but generally when you want to reach out to an influencer, look, you're asking whether it's a paid opportunity or however the collaboration is, you want them to do something. So you need to take the time to get to know them. And also it takes multiple touch points. Sending a cold email when you've not connected with them via social media, you're not following, or you're completely cold, the responses are going to be a lot harder than if you've already got a warm relationship with them.
That makes a lot of sense. So where would you start to build that more warm relationship with somebody? What's the best way to get an influencer's attention?
Yeah, I mean, I think Twitter is probably the easiest and also the fastest route,
Okay.
um, because it's just so quick and it's so easy and it's so visible, And the fact I remember when Twitter changed a few years back, the ability to DM anybody, that completely opened the floodgates out, and that changed the whole playing field. LinkedIn as well is a really another good way. And I think, just retweeting, sharing, reading their content as well. So show that you're actually interested in them and that you value their content and how it's resonated with their readers, sharing that sort of thing. I think that can make a big help. Sometimes not going, and also I think ultimately it also depends what's on your agenda, and I think that can also impact the relationship and how you reach out to them as well.
Absolutely. So what would you say is the smartest approach to figuring out who to reach out to start with?
That is a great question. So there's two types of influencers. So you've got your micro influencers, and then you've got your big influencers who are like your celebrities and huge following. I think it's obvious that anyone who is a celeb or who has millions and millions of followers is going to likely have some kind of PR agency or some kind of agent behind it. And you're looking at a paid promotion. There's no way they will do it for free unless it's something that is of particular value to them. So for example, a charity or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And that's when the approach and befriending them really doesn't really matter, because it's a case of you show them the money, and if they like the brand and the money's enough, then that's okay. But with the micro influencers, so those who have under sort of 100,000 or a couple of 100,000, the approach is obviously it's very different then, I think. And it's a case of finding those that are in your industry, synergy. There's a lot of listicles where you can find influencers. There's a lot of tools as well. But you need to look at not just the numbers. I think a lot of influencer marketing can be gamed, and I think that's when brands get it wrong. And just because someone has a large following doesn't necessarily mean that that following is targeted or highly engaged. So there's lots of different variables you need to take into account.
Absolutely. We have all seen, I think, people with the big numbers that probably didn't quite get there organically. So how do you recommend filtering that to see if an audience is engaged when you're looking at people?
Yeah, so there's lots of things that you can do. So you can leverage tools. BuzzSumo is a great influencer tool. You can see how their content performs as well. So, for example, if you're wanting them to write about you, then how does their actual content perform? You know, how many shares does it generate? What type of engagement? That sort of thing. Where are they speaking? Are they speaking at any events? You know, are they connected to other influencers? Again, it really boils down to what it is that the brand is after for the influencer to do. I think that does play a really crucial role in it. But I think it's just a case of looking behind the artificial numbers, if you like, because social media is heavily gamed. Yeah, as we all know. So, well, those in the industry know, but those outside are,
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes on in every industry. So it's not unique to social media, but it is important to be aware of.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is. I think it's just a case of being quite savvy and taking the time, and also once you find one and start to build a relationship, you know, making sure that you're happy and that there's a good fit, that they actually like your brand, that they value it. You know, that they're not just tweeting for the sake of it or because you're paying them money. You know, try and understand behind the scenes and how ethical they are and whether their values fit with yours as well.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So what are some of the best ways that you've seen to collaborate with influencers when you connect with ones who do like your mission and your brand and are a good fit?
I was doing a campaign a couple of years ago for Greenpeace, and as part of it, they had this campaign, Stop Shell. And we wanted to get influencers to obviously promote the campaign and advocate the fact that, you know, we wanted to stop Shell from polluting. It's very sort of, I'm not sure if political is the right thing, but it's a very, you know, you have to be for that cause.
Right.
So it was a case of doing a lot of research. So finding out which influencers would be more sensitive and more pro for the cause, what supports have they shown in the past, that sort of thing. And reaching out to them and seeing how they could help in any way and things like that. I think perseverance is key here. And I hate the term volume, but I do think that volume does play a part, because it is, unfortunately, it's a numbers game. You know, if you're reaching out to 200, 500 influencers, then you've got to think how many are going to do it. So I think for some campaigns, it pays to be really targeted and only focus on a small amount of influencers. But for others, you definitely need the volume as well. So that was a really successful campaign. But I think because it was such a well-known brand, it made it a lot easier, and a lot of people wanted to be part of it. I think when you're a new brand and you're trying to reach out and connect with influencers, it's a lot harder. And I think that's when financial money sometimes has to exchange. And it's how you incentivize them to work with you as opposed to another company as well. Because often when you're an influencer, you're getting lots of different brands reaching out to you. And it's how do you choose which one to work for? Because you can't work for them all. And I think it's brands' responsibility to incentivize them and why they should work with them. You know, there's some great ambassador programs as well, where people do meetups and they do, you know, swags and events and all these things. So when you can meet with them to get that personal touch, I think that is also really nice as well, because so much is done virtually, which is wonderful. But I think for a long-term relationship, I think it's nice to meet where possible as well.
Yeah. So looking at your own business and how it's grown over the years, how would you say the ability to collaborate with influencers and others and to generate referrals that way has affected your visibility and your reach?
Yeah, it's been huge actually, and I think it's played a pivotal role in everything I do. You know, to be friends with influencers is great. It means that you will support one another, you share each other's content. If there's a piece of work that you perhaps can't do but you think would be a good fit for them, you can pass it on. So there's a lot of referral. I think it's a very open and honest relationship, particularly in my industry. There's no competitiveness or jealousy. It's very open. I think a lot of it is because a lot of influencers are always listed on the same list, and we often work with a lot of the same companies as well. What you tend to find is some brands, they won't obviously just choose one influencer, they work with a few in that particular industry. So you do get to become quite friendly, and that in turn has results. I've even been in masterminds with other influencers. You know, there's just the limits for collaboration are endless, you know, joint ventures, all sorts of things. And I think collaboration is good. You know, in business, you cannot do it all on your own. You do need collaboration, and that's either with other peers, influencers, colleagues, however you wish to do it.
Absolutely. So what would you say is your number one collaborative marketing tip?
Ooh, I think just be honest, you know, be transparent about what you're wanting. And I think managing expectations is really, really important. And I think this is another mistake that a lot of brands do, is they don't manage their expectations in the beginning. They want fast results, that we all want fast results, but that doesn't always necessarily happen. And sometimes it shouldn't happen. Sometimes things need to organically grow as well. So I think listening to one another, respecting what each person wants out of that relationship, and managing the expectations and the boundaries as well, is really, really important. And just keeping the levels of communication open as well. And I think another big one is the reciprocation side of things. You know, how I think nothing worse when it's all one-sided. So I think that also comes into play as well.
Yeah, definitely. So based on that and the idea of the reciprocation, what are some ways that entrepreneurs or brands can reciprocate and show up with that value for the people that they're asking to share them?
Well, there's lots of different ways. I mean, I think there's from hosting events, educating, conferences. There's the obvious, which is financial. And I think a lot of influencers do want the financial side. And I think influencer marketing has really evolved over the last few years. I can remember a few years ago, you know, some of the perks I had as an influencer was going in a helicopter in Monaco to an event. I won't say the brand, but, you know, it was really, really cool. And, you know, gone are those kind of days. I think that was in the highlight of it all. And it was a lot of fun, I have to say. I think now, you know, a lot of influencers, because there's so many brands now who are jumping on the bandwagon of influencer marketing, they ultimately want a financial reward. And I think that's when the playing field is definitely changing. Not everybody wants that, but a lot do want that. And I think it's how you get across with that. I think brands need to be aware that if you're writing to that influencer on that particular day, you can guarantee that 100 others are also. And how do they choose it? And it's not just the financial side, it's also what else comes with it as well. How else, you know, what other value you can provide. Because it has to be a kind of win-win relationship, because the brands need the influencers and the influencers also need the brands, because it becomes part of their business model as well.
Right. So if you are reaching out to somebody who is probably getting, 50 or 100 emails or messages a day, how
Mhm.
do you stand out enough to even get them to open the subject line?
I think try and form the relationship before. So at least, tweet with them, share their stuff, and, so that you can at least say, we've been following each other, we're connected. I loved your recent article. It's back down to that personalization thing, so that don't just go in with a hard sell. And also, if you have a product, offering an influencer affiliate things in my books is a big no-no. That is not an incentive.
Okay.
And seeing, sometimes it's not just about the money. Sometimes it's also what other influencers you have on board as well. That can also be a real value and a decision maker, because when influencers know that others are there, they kind of want to be part of it as well, and they think, oh, okay, let's join in as well. It becomes more social and more worth their while. So that can help as well.
That makes sense. Everybody wants to be where the party is at.
They do. Nobody wants to be left out. It's like nobody wants to be the first one on the dance floor, and then everyone follows. We're very habitual people.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing what you see working as far as getting attention of influencers and getting them to collaborate with you, share what you're up to. I know this will be some tips that people can take away and implement to get more attention and visibility in their business.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.